Hey everybody, today I wanted to share my reactions and thoughts about YouTube videos discussing what it's like to live as an investment banker. I recently watched a few of these videos by a YouTuber in particular, a small guy, small YouTuber with only 13,000 subscribers, but really explained the topic in detail, and I just found it so entertaining and informative that I just had to talk about it. So basically, he has a couple videos, one where he just breaks down how much he made, how much he had to pay in taxes, and how he spent that money. And then another video was on how and why he left investment banking and why many others leave investment banking. And I wanted to kind of share my thoughts on this in terms of personal development, fulfillment, happiness, and income. Now, the first big thing I realized, and it was very obvious in that first video, he explained it very well, but he had a lot of that money taken away in taxes. So, even though on the ticket price he's making $150,000 a year, and that grew over time as he grew up in that industry, and finance is a very, very lucrative industry. The issue was like after taxes and after he contributed some to his 401k, which anyone should do if they want to intelligently retire through the power of compound interest one day. Um, I think he only had like what $4,000 a month to spend, and so it was very interesting because he basically was only paying like $1,200 a month in rent, which is basically like a bare base rent place. He was basically sharing a townhouse with five other people. So when you look at that, you basically realize that this guy is not living this incredible lavish life. In fact, if anything, like rent, which is one of the most expensive things, he's actually living kind of bare bones. I mean, that's a very budget, like young bachelor thing to do. Even if you don't have a fancy finance job. And then you wonder, okay, so you half of it gets taken away in taxes, and then you're stuck with this amount left. What? Okay, he's paying less on rent. He must be spending it elsewhere, and partying it up. So in some ways, yes, he was spending $300 a month on alcohol, which is just a lot, but really not that much. It's not thousands, tens of thousands, or hundreds of thousands like some celebrities do. And he's also paying off some stuff. I think he had a school tuition bill that he had to pay off, and he also invested a lot of it into crypto, which I wouldn't do myself, but that's what he ended up doing. So all in all, he gave this conclusion that he never felt like he was rich, and he was kind of living this normal lifestyle that he more or less enjoyed, because he still was able to kind of have some perks with that lifestyle. For example, basically the investment healthcare banking company comped all his meals. So as long as he worked a certain amount of hours, he would get free fancy meals, or I think he would get like $25 off. And so that leads me to my next point that I wanted to discuss, which is the lifestyle and the downsides of starting off your career with that lifestyle, and moving from there. So one thing he realized was when he ended up quitting investment banking and then living a much more budget friendly lifestyle, it was really tough because he had gotten used to certain things that it had to offer. For example, he was used to being able to buy any fancy restaurant meal he wanted and never having to cook. Now, when he ended up moving on and trying to start a clothing business, he had to basically he couldn't do that anymore, and he ran across a lot of the issues that others ended up running into when things like this happen, such as not being able to say yes all the time when your friends want to hang out and purchase food at a restaurant, something I'm familiar with, or basically having to eat Costco chicken and spinach, prepared frozen meals to save money for weeks on end. And so I think that's something that he didn't have to swing to that extreme, but I can understand why a young bachelor would swing to that extreme. And what I mean is that um, it's cooking and learning how to cook is a very valuable life skill. And when you're thrust into a situation where at first you seem to have all this money, so you can just blow it out on food um, and eating out, you get to a state where you never have to learn how to cook. And then, of course, when you shift to something else and your budget falls, all of a sudden rather than learning how to cook, it's very easy to just kind of lean on that convenience and just buy frozen budget meals or prepared meals that suck. So I think that's one danger of kind of having that lifestyle. Like you're never forced or you never uh, push yourself to learn these applicable life skills like shopping and cooking and preparing decent meals at home yourself. So, still something very relatable. I think that was something that I definitely had uh, struggles with learning how to cook and so forth. And that gets me to the next big point that I found in his video, which is, the whole point about why most people leave investment banking. He mentioned a couple big reasons, and then what it means, in my opinion, in terms of passion, happiness, fulfillment, and growth. So he left because, he basically, it was a personal story, and I respect him for going through that and making the most of it. But his mother was diagnosed with ALS, and it got him to rethink what mattered most in life. And rather than just continuing to climb that investment banking ladder and maybe making, multiple six figures in the future, he decided what was most important was kind of living a life with no regrets. And so he quit because he wanted to do this 6-month backpacking trip across the world, which he did. Props to him. Very kind of crazy, often even dangerous or anxious filled thing, and I respect him for kind of taking that plunge and doing it. And of course, he had that savings saved up to do it, so that probably helped as well. But he mentioned a lot of reasons why other investment bankers quit, and I think it just really speaks to the whole point of how you can make a lot of money, but then not only that you don't make as much as people think because of taxes, but then you just hate your work and you have no other time. And it's a concept that I really want to push because I think so many people across the country just fall for this chase of money and materialistic things in the expectations that that's what you need to achieve happiness, and you just got to push towards that no matter what. And that's clearly not the case as illustrated by a lot of people who leave investment banking. He basically said many people leave because they can't sustainably keep up the hours. When you're expected to work 80 to 100-hour weeks every week, and you don't like your work, it's oftentimes very monotonous work where you're just in Excel spreadsheets all day. That's a recipe for disaster for many reasons. One, because you don't like your work. You're spending your entire life, and not even some of your life. Some companies will give you a work-life balance because you're only expected to work 40 hours a week. When it's 80, that's basically your entire life. And so you're spending your entire life doing this monotonous thing that you don't really like for how long? 10, 20, 30 years? And then what? Then will you finally be happy? Then will you finally be able to do what you enjoy, or will it just be like more of the same? And so that's something that's, worth noting. And then the other big point is that because of that time allocation, which, a lot of young people just naturally, without thinking, just go into and commit to, they basically rule out a lot of other things that are also important for life success, fulfillment, happiness, such as time with family, time with friends, a personal life, to build relationships, friend relationships, romantic relationships, just general mental health, time to recharge, time to do your own projects. And ultimately, it leads to this kind of burnout, or ultimately they realize they can't do it anymore and they move on. So it really gets you thinking, and at least it gets me thinking about what really matters. And what it tells me is that money alone is not always worth it. And sometimes taking the lower salary at a different industry or different job title or different company is the better move to make. And that's something that people, it's a hard pill to swallow and something that people don't realize. But you want to set yourself up for growth, success, happiness, and all those things play a role into it in terms of what you enjoy and what you want to do. Obviously, we're all on this journey together, so it's not going to be, you're not going to be handed your dream job on your lap. It's something that you may take a few stepping stones to get to, but as long as you work towards it, and you actually start to factor these other things in, you might get to a better place in the long run. Now, I want to know from you, what jobs do you think are really good or maybe even better in terms of the mix of all those factors compared to investment banking? Some people, I feel like, might say that software engineer is where it's at. You make the same amount in San Francisco with those tech companies, but you don't have to work as crazy hours and you get that free time to just blow. Or maybe it's something else. Maybe it's just living and working a modest wage in a modest area where expenses are not ridiculous. That may be the way. I'm curious to know your thoughts. Leave a comment, like, subscribe, comment. I'm really enjoying watching these fun little videos where they, kind of break down how much they earn and how much they make. I watched a few others by Joe Matech that I reacted to. Wasn't as positive about that one because he was basically spending a lot even after tax and earned a lot after tax somehow. I assume the 180K that he made as a software engineer, some of it may have come from his YouTube channel. I don't know, but he was spending an excessive amount on a lot of frivolous stuff. Like, I think he spent like 4K a month just on like tickets to comedians shows and stuff. It was ridiculous, but nonetheless, found it very entertaining. Let me know what you think, and I'll see you later.